So as you can tell from the thumbnail of this video, I made a lap steel guitar, and I'm going to show you my process of building this entire thing. I'm going to have some timestamps here for audio demos and the build demo, because this might be a long video, about 10 to 15 minutes in that time frame. So if you want to skip ahead, just reference the timestamps like I mentioned right in this corner here. But yeah, I had a lot of fun building this. I purchased the bridge, nut, and tailpiece all online. I can provide links down below. Designed the pickguard myself, got it 3D printed, and I had some electronics laying around, so I was able to get it wired up for a one humbucker situation. Yeah, this is effectively done. It's still a little bit cold, so all I have to do is stain it and then put a finish on it just to help protect it, but I'm gonna wait until that's warmer. So in the meantime, this is a finished instrument. I'm gonna do some demos. Hello, so I figured I'd probably do a little bit more documentation of my lap steel guitar build. So this would be the basic guitar with the tailpiece bridge. I will have the pickup cavity here coming down about a ½ inch. Then I have the headstock end here. I have some little marks here just so I know thickness of where I want to take it to, where I want to taper everything. I gave myself some extra leeway room. 2 wings. So this wing right here will line up here with the bottom of the guitar. I'll cut out another little cavity for the electronics. Then I'll have the excess wood up here be a secondary wing on this side of the guitar. I'm a bit of a nerd. I like to draw stuff out. I did some preliminary plans. I drew out a rough idea on what I want the dimensions of the wings to be. Probably do an extra file here. This will be wing B, which will be this side closest to me. This will be wing A, which will be the control cavity. Because once I get the body actually assembled, I am going to sketch out where I want to make the pickguard. It's going to be most likely 3D designed, and kind of do a preliminary video before I get back into it again. Right, I'm going to start making some incisions. Since I mentioned this would be for the control cavity with the volume knob, tone knob, and output jack that I'm planning to install and set up in this build, it's okay if it's not super pretty and neat and tidy, just because I'm kind of using everything that I have available and just putting in a little bit of DIY elbow grease into this build, since it's a lap steel made out of a 2x4, so you don't necessarily need it to be absolutely perfect. But there's some little nooks and crannies that are a little bit of a mess, or a little unclean. That's okay. And since this is a control cavity, I am going to be designing a pickguard to go over top of this. It just needs to be serviceable, you know? Alright, since I have the wing portion with the pickup cavity routed out roughly to where I want it height-wise, either way, like I said, I'll be able to sand it out a bit more to the correct depthness if needed. I'd rather take a little bit more off material-wise than I need than to cut off, but for now I'm going to cut off this portion right here. I have the final cut line right here, and then this portion here, I measured it out, it would be about 13.5 inches. And I'm going to line that up to the other side of the body and have that be my secondary wing. I didn't get perfectly straight. This side's out a little bit further, but like I said, sanding wise, I can at least sand that out now. Now, I'm going to kind of demonstrate a little bit of what I have going on. So, this would be the pickup cavity. I'll have the control, so I'll be playing it, picking this side, down this side would be the neck. So the pickup cavity, I'll have it lined up right at the bottom here. So as you can see, the pickup cavity routed out here, and then the secondary wing will be right up top of here. I might cut some length off for this one here with the cavity. But ideally, this is what the lap seal will look once it's all finished and complete. I apologize about the audio here, so I'm going to do a voiceover. I messed up while I was recording. I bought some tuning pegs off of eBay. They'll eventually be used from an old acoustic that I have. I did a lot of shaping with the headstock. I didn't have a circular saw that was deep enough, so I used a combination of a circular saw to get rough ballpark and a saw to make these along final line. Here's where the rough section is of my cut so far. I'm just showing off the taper that I'm going to do from the back of the headstock into the actual body of this lap steel. As you can see, I use chisels just to rough the blade just so I kind of knew where to go. But I was looking at for the headstock. I also cut out the corner portion of the pickup cavity wing, and I'll eventually do sanding on all these parts later. I got my hardware pieces sourced from eBay. Most of these are going to be from the equivalent of Gretsch lap steels that I purchased offline. I got everything measured in the place where I want it and lined them up. You can see that I was testing the tuning pegs just to make sure I had room, my taper was in the right spot, and I had the right depthness. I knew that I was going to have to do some sanding and finishing just to get to the right length, so I cut everything a little bit thicker just to be safe. And this portion here is when I begin to do quite a bit of sanding on the headstock just to kind of shape everything up nice and pretty. Most people, like I said, do these lap steel builds and they'll just be a couple simple cuts of the headstock thin so the tuning pegs go through, cut out the pickup cavity, screw a hole for the output, and you're off to the races. But since this is my first proper woodworking build, and I enjoy detail, I have no problem going through and properly getting everything handed down to size to fit and shaping everything exactly how I want it, which you can see I'm doing a lot of work here. But yeah, this is currently where I'm at to where I worked on the pickup cavity a little bit to fit my input jack inside of. So yeah, let's get back to the build and get rid of the voiceover. Alright, so I'll be back at it for a couple more hours today just to kind of shape everything, get everything going how I would like it. Like I mentioned, ended up having an old acoustic, took the tuning pegs off of that in place of the ones I was originally going to use for this build. So I'm going to install these onto the headstock. I have the headstock formed. I might do a little bit of shaping on either side here just to kind of smooth out this taper from the top of the body. I'm going to install all the hardware. I'm going to install the nut, the bridge and tailpiece again. And I changed strings on my proper acoustic, so I stole the strings off of that, the old ones, and I'm gonna just kind of have everything placed here. And then I'm gonna do some cuts on the third wing. So. Warm-off pickguard that I'm going to use this as a reference for my holes and stuff. I'll get all the measurements afterwards. But I just want to make sure I have at least lined up where the pickup cavity is going to go for the humbucker. I'm actually going to drop a pencil line there so I know when there's line up on my sides. Just to kind of make my life easier for taking this down and putting it back in place. I saved these strings from when I restrung my acoustic last night. The tuning pegs are from a shitty, cheap $50 acoustic that I had laying around. Yeah, I kind of repurposed. I just want to make sure I have everything kind of like in the right location. I want to decide if I'm going to need string trees for this project for the D and G strings. Alright, I'm going to use some Type Bond 2 wood glue, no, actually the original Type Bond wood glue to hold both the main and the control cavity wing down together.